Today on AM Spotlight, we are joined by Kate Turner, a licensed professional counselor, speaker, and author who has spent more than 2 decades helping people navigate life's most difficult seasons. Through her counseling practice, her personal journey, and her upcoming book, A Little Help, Getting Unstuck from Life's Challenges, Kate has gained valuable insights into resilience, healing, and the power of asking for help. Today we'll explore not only what she's learned professionally, but the wisdom she's gained from walking alongside people as they find hope, healing, and a way forward. Well, after working with people for more than 2 decades, what common struggles do you see, like, over and over again? There must be some, because it's tough out there.
Yeah, I would say the common struggles. I'm going to tell you some, and then we're going to boil it down to one, which sounds kind of fantastical. Except having done this for so many years, addiction, resentment, loneliness, hard times with family, depression, and trauma, unprocessed trauma, and really boiling it down to one item is people feel that they're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
There you go.
A lot of them don't know what's happening inside of them, and they just need a little help. They want to figure it out. Yeah.
One of the things you'll realize about Kate is she has tremendous, little acronyms and little one-liners that can help people when they're going through tough times to get a little help. And we'll probably explore a few of these as we get going. But what type of success are you seeing in your practice? I mean, that's a lot that you just mentioned. But what type of success are you seeing in your practice?
I'm seeing couples' marriages healed. I'm
great.
seeing addictions remediated. I'm seeing parents and teens getting back on the same page. I'm seeing adult children reconnecting with their parents. And I'm just seeing a lot of healing going on. And I think that just sitting there and listening, I do a lot of listening. I don't even take notes anymore, Charlie.
Wow.
I'm listening. I'm looking in their eyes. I'm seeing their pain. I'm offering some suggestions. I don't tell people what to do. I give them encouragements. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? And sometimes I'll say, well, what it sounds like is. And so the successes I see are problems being remediated. And really, I see myself as a servant. I'm not the fixer. I'm a servant with a lot of experience.
Well, I think your experience allows people to look people in the eyes instead of worrying about what your next comment's going to be. Yeah. And what I'm hearing you say is you feed off what they're telling you.
Exactly.
And you kind of go and you're led of God to help these people and to see some real progress.
Right.
So this book that you've written, I've been excited about sharing this. It's called A Little Help.
Right.
And I'd like to ask you a few questions. There's 12 chapters, and they're all excellent. I picked out 3 that I felt like were really relevant to our audience. Our audience is going to be people from business owners to moms that stay at home that are the chief operating officers of their homes, and everybody in between. But everybody needs a little help.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the chapters is chapter 1. It's called FINE, and that acronym stands for Feelings I'm Not Expressing. So let's unpack that a little bit, where you learn to deal with healthy ways to express feelings and properly address feelings I'm not expressing, or FINE. So one of the things you've talked to me about is you got to feel it to heal it.
Right.
That was really a profound thing for me, and it's such a simple illustration, but elaborate a little bit more on that.
All right, happy to. So in this chapter, the client, Simone, who is not an actual client, these clients are condensed from the hundreds of people I've seen. She comes in, she doesn't know what's happening with her, and she can't seem to get a grip on her emotions, on her feelings, because she's buried her feelings for so long. And we don't bury those things dead. Those things are they are alive, and we've just tried to push them over here.
Is that denial?
Yeah, some of that's denial, some of it's fear. I don't want to go there. I've had people tell me, Kate, I don't want to open Pandora's box, and I lovingly say, you're in Pandora's box.
Oh, okay.
Let's get you out, right? And so what I tell people, and in this chapter, is that feelings are not facts. They just are. They come and go like waves in an ocean. They need to be noticed, and we say, something's going on. Why am I feeling this way? And then we let them pass.
So we don't run our life based on our feelings.
No.
They're a little fickle sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you could feel like you want to eat a whole pizza by yourself,
Yeah.
but the fact is that would not be good for you.
Probably not.
Not
a
good
best
for you.
practice.
No. And I walk people through this because oftentimes there are feelings they have not expressed that need to be expressed. And then they can move on through that. And they can cause all kinds of somatic disturbances, migraines, IBS, and because it's trapped in here and it needs to get out.
And you're seeing that those unexpressed feelings are causing physical ailments as well.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
And like I said, IBS, migraines, just other physical maladies. And I've had people come in who are very fragile and kind of broken down and have held all this stuff in, and our body has to do something with these stress hormones, and it will end up kind of attacking itself.
That's great.
And another thing I tell them is no feeling is final. No feeling is final. You recognize it, move through it, live.
One of the things you pointed out in your book is, and both you and I love the scriptures.
Yes.
And Ecclesiastes 3 is one of the more popular passages. And elaborate a little bit about that, because there's several things. It says there's a time for everything.
Right.
It talks about 10 or 12 things, but one of those things is a time to heal.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So
exactly.
Can you elaborate a little bit about that? Because kind of tying this thing together, because I noticed in your book also, which everybody needs to read this book, okay? There's so much in there, and you will get tremendous help. I just picked out just little nuggets. There's a lot of nuggets. It's hard to pick out just a few. But tie it in with how do we give other people power with our emotions. And that was really interesting, because that's a debilitating thing. I mean, that can be pretty harmful, I would think.
Right. Well, something, I guess a mistaken idea of a lot of people is people make them upset, or she made me mad, or he made me embarrassed, or, they hurt my feelings.
Right.
And that's not true.
Okay.
We choose how we feel, right? We choose. Somebody could say something unkind to us. I had a client who told me, Kate, I don't think you're doing this right. And I could have chosen to get hurt or, offended. And I thought, I think I'm a pretty good counselor.
Yeah.
And something's going on with this client. So just in that chapter, I talked to the client that nobody can make her feel one way or the other, that she's got to process what's in here. And if somebody says something that feels offensive or hurtful or shameful, she needs to look in here and go, what was that about?
But you were mature enough to not believe that lie.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that could have shut down the counseling session.
Oh, yeah.
Right there.
Right.
But you knew who you were.
Yeah.
And were confident enough to not to realize that's just passing.
Right. And I tell all my clients, Charlie, at the first session, at the end of this session, if I'm not a good fit for you, let's talk about it, and I can help you find a counselor that you feel is a good fit for you. Because no harm, no foul. I want them to get help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that comes through that you genuinely care, whether you help them or somebody else.
Right.
I think that's a good approach. There was one other comment before we go on to the next chapter that I want to talk about. There's a passage in Psalm 23. It says that God restores your soul, and He anoints your head with oil, and your cup runneth over.
Right.
I got to believe there's a possibility that there's a sequence there that restoration can oftentimes come before the anointing or the equipping for people. When you're restored and made whole or healed, I believe that you can be a better business leader, you can be a better husband, a better dad. I mean, name it, right?
Right.
And so can you elaborate on just how healing and restoration kind of tie in together?
Well, I love Psalm 23. I memorized it several years ago. I say it out loud every morning in my prayer closet.
I did not know that before.
Yes,
That's
yes.
awesome.
And one of the I think the third line says, he makes me walk along paths of righteousness for his name's sake.
Come on.
And what does that look like? He wants me to walk on that straight and narrow to point to him, right?
So good.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to segue here or take a little rabbit trail.
Okay.
In the desert, when Moses was leading the Israelites through the desert, and there was the time when the snakes came and bit them, right?
Yeah.
And they were dying by the thousands. And
Right.
Moses is like, help us, God. What do we do here?
Right.
And he told them to form that snake and put it on a pole,
Yeah.
right? The bronze snake, which then doctors have used as their symbol,
Yeah.
to look at it. If they get bitten, to look at it and they'd be healed. And I heard another speaker say this. It just bears repeating. God wants us to look at what's biting us. He wants us to look at what's harming us so we can get healed and move on and help other people.
That's so good. Righteousness is really all about right thinking.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's important. So
Yeah.
we could camp out in that chapter for a long
could,
time.
yeah.
But the other chapter that really got me, and I think it'll help a lot of our people who are either owning businesses or managers, people out there who have been ruled by their emotions, people who are approval addicts, people who are workaholics. I know I'm not talking to any of you out there, but if any of those categories fit you, then this next chapter that we're going to kind of briefly hit on, it's called codependency. Let me tell you a real quick story. So my wife and I, we led support groups at our church. We volunteered for that, and we did that for many, many years. And before we got called into that, people were coming to us out of the woodwork saying, I'm codependent. Had never even heard of the word codependent. And I really didn't like some of the books people were throwing at me because I realized that I had a little bit of that of my own, a little codependency that I needed to work through. So we all live in the same room, and that's the room for improvement.
That's right.
And we have to be honest with ourselves, and I was honest with myself, and I think I received tremendous healing in some of the things that I looked in your chapter, and I was like, oh, check the box, I did that, So talk to us a little bit about how do we set healthy boundaries? Because there's a lot to unpack in codependency.
Yes, there
I'm
is.
just going to hit on the surface, but we're going to go through a couple little things. But healthy boundaries, why is it important to set healthy boundaries?
Well, I would say, Charlie, that it's, I take from the book of Matthew, and all through the Bible it says to love your neighbor as you love yourself. So there's that little word as.
Okay.
So we cannot really love our neighbor until we are taking care of ourselves, loving ourselves,
But
right?
some people would call that selfish.
Right, they would. And I've
Right.
had people in my office who want to take care of other people first. And when I say, what about you? Your cup sounds empty. Well, that would be selfish. They actually say that. But I want to go back to what is codependency. And in a nutshell, it's trying to control another person and their behavior so you feel better. If they would just stop doing this, or if they would do it my way, then I would feel better.
So you're telling me people try to manipulate others?
Well, a little bit. It's more about control.
Control.
Let's say a husband has an alcoholic wife and he's pouring her drinks out. He's,
Yeah.
moving her favorite cup. He's saying, sweetheart, you need to go to AA
Right.
because he's disturbed, right? And if she would just get well, then he would feel better. So healthy boundaries for someone is learning to take care of themselves first. What is this really about? It's about saying no or saying, that's a great idea. Let me pray about that. Let me think about that. It's also being aware. What is happening inside of me when somebody that I want to control or stop doing things, what's happening inside of me and what's really going on? What is the truth right now about what's happening in here with me? Boundaries you could talk about forever.
But it's important.
Yes.
But so many people who have not set boundaries, and many people out there listening today, have been enabling bad behavior for years, I would think.
For sure.
So how do we begin to speak the truth in love and be firm but loving? Because that's really difficult, whether you're in business or personal, because people might think you're coming across as being arrogant,
Right.
prideful, but really you're protecting yourself and you're protecting the relationship that you're in. And I think everybody benefits from that,
Right.
by speaking the truth in love, which is, by the way, I think one of the underserved areas in our society. We don't know how to speak the truth in love. We're either out of balance one way or the other. So,
Right.
anything to add about
Well,
how you,
sure. That's a great question. I think another acronym I have is QTIP. Quit
you
taking it personally.
oh,
So when somebody says something to me that I feel like it crosses my boundaries or it triggers, I can stop and being a mature
can you say that
adult.
again? Q-tip?
Q-tip.
Okay.
Quit taking it personally.
Wow.
So the next time you use a
Okay.
and I believe this, and maybe the listening audience wouldn't. I don't believe anything anybody says is about me.
Okay.
I think, especially if it's offendable, if they want to give me a compliment or whatever, then they've enjoyed what I've done.
Yeah.
And that's nice. And so, again, so for growth for the person, first of all, it's to become aware. Do I have some immature emotions that need handling, right? And so, if just segueing off to trauma, if you had trauma as a little kid or a teenager, and then somebody comes in and pokes that soft spot,
Right.
then lots of times you will react
Gotcha.
out of that pain from being little. And so the growth in
That
the
was
person.
never healed.
Right, that was never healed.
Right.
So I think the first step in that, the question that you asked me, is awareness. I'm aware that I can have adult temper tantrums.
Okay.
And they're not attractive.
Okay.
So how do I become the full adult? How do I match my emotional, heal my emotional, maybe little girl or teenager up to my adult
Okay.
person?
That's good. Well, in this codependency, I'm realizing in my own life that I have to find the balance. I own a business. Have
Right.
run a business for 26 years.
Okay.
This is the 26th year, and I want to make every customer happy. I want to make everybody around me happy, and oftentimes you have to be unpopular, and you need to state things that are true and they're good in the long run, but it's kind of like medicine. You take a pill and it might make you feel better
Right.
eventually, but it doesn't taste real good going down sometimes.
Right.
So how do we find the balance in people pleasing and the whole approval addiction, basing your self-worth on how that person perceives you? Because what I find to be true is that it can ruin your day if somebody just says something unkind to you or drops you as a client,
Yeah.
or whatever. You take it personal. And how do you overcome that? I don't know if you have anything to.
Well, you can, and I go back to Q-tip. If you're taking it personally, it's about you, right?
Okay.
So what's going on in here? And you said something about 2 sentences ago. If I feel a certain way about what they said, I'm paraphrasing. So what I like to say is I've allowed myself to feel that way.
Wow.
And again, that nobody can make me feel that way. If I get jazzed up about something, why am I allowing myself to feel this way? And I want to go back to the codependency. I think you're right, Charlie. I think everybody's got a little bit of it. And it's a, twin sister almost to people pleasing. And again, I think it goes back to unhealed, unprocessed stuff. If you grew up in a family where there was a lot of dysregulated emotion, I just got to be quiet and please dad, or something like
Yeah.
that. And that's where a good counselor comes in,
Yeah.
a good pastor, a
Right.
good book,
Right.
to start looking at those things and ask yourself, why am I getting so riled up about this? Not, she made me mad.
Yeah.
What's going on in here?
Yeah.
So again, the awareness piece.
Yeah, and I think with knowledge, I've learned over the years that there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is learning the facts. Wisdom is being able to apply those facts and to get health and healing in your life.
Right.
So another chapter, we're moving on, because codependency, we camped out there a long time. And but this next one is something in business is really something everybody deals with. What are some key things? The chapter is hard conversations with someone. So what are some key things that you have seen help people in dealing with hard conversations? Because let's just get real. It's uncomfortable having a hard conversation. And frankly, most people would just as soon not have them.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the most healthy thing to do.
No, you want to clear the air if you can. And so, again, what was your question?
Well, the question is, what are the key things in dealing with being effective and having hard conversations? But one thing I want to point out is the scripture you pointed out before we get started. And it says, God wants us to grow up to know the whole truth and tell it in love. Ephesians 4:15. Again, you use scriptures and you use things that you've learned in college to help people.
Right.
But that's a powerful passage that God wants us to grow up, to know what the truth is and tell it in love. Right. Speak the truth in love.
That's right.
Not deny what's going on. Mm-hmm. Speak the truth in love. And in business, we run across budgets, return on investment, creative disagreements.
Right.
Realistic or unrealistic timelines, and how do you tell a customer who needs something in a week that the best you can do in 2 weeks, and here's why. So, hard conversations happen almost every day.
Right.
But how do we find the balance in that and do that?
Okay. And I pointed to King David, who did not have hard conversations with his kids. His kids were a train wreck. And see what happened. Even the prophet Samuel, his kids, Eli, because they were not willing to have hard conversations with their kids. And so I think one of the first things is you got to decide, I need to have this conversation, right? I need to. And then you keep it simple, sweetie, KISS, right? I like to say sweetie. And for me, there's a whole acronym in that chapter, Speak Up.
That's what I got in my notes.
Yeah.
I love that, Speak Up.
Right.
Let's go through that real quick. Y'all, let me tell you, what I love about Kate and her approach to teaching, which, by the way, she's available for counseling. She's a great speaker to large groups and what have you. She's got a lot of experience, very pragmatic in her approach. And what I like about it, these acronyms, they're easy to remember. So the acronym of the day is Speak Up in this chapter. And so I'm just going to go through each letter and we're going to unpack it real quick. So S stands for speak.
Right.
Okay, so to a trusted friend,
right.
a spouse, or a counselor.
Right. To say, look, I really need to have this difficult conversation. And side note, I teach a lot of my clients, we don't have to look at things as good or bad. They just are. Yeah. So I need to have this conversation with somebody that I work with or that I love or that I live with and, maybe try to take some of the fear out of it, that it doesn't have to be difficult. So, right.
So is it important to, in P, in Speak Up, it means prepare. So write down the top tier things.
Right.
The points you want to share. Is it important to role play, or does that help any? Like
it does,
it sounds like it's kind of different, but is it important?
Yes, it's very important, and you can do it in the mirror, which is not as useful. You could do it with a spouse. You could do it with a best friend. Role playing is huge.
But what does that do to you? Does it just calm you down?
Yes,
does it
and
get you prepared?
Right, and the preparation too. When I've had to have difficult conversations, I write it all out and then I distill it to about 3 sentences, and I put it on a 3x5 card and I keep it in my wallet, keep it in my pocket. Look at it. And I don't take it with me when I'm talking to the person.
No.
I have it up here. It's basically memorized.
Because you're prepared.
Right.
Right. So the E, we're talking about speak up and how do you have hard conversations. So the E is evaluate. And I wrote down, what is the stance you're taking? And you say avoid judgments and use I feel statements. You got to feel it to heal it.
That's right, Charlie.
And that's something I'll always remember about you. You got to feel it to heal it. And so many of us have been in denial so long about our feelings, we suppress them. We don't want to talk about them because it's uncomfortable.
Right.
But you're saying that there's tremendous healing in being able to express it with a trusted friend, a pastor, or a counselor.
Right. So the evaluating is looking, how am I looking at this person? Do I have resentment against them? If you do, you need to clear that out before you have the conversation. Okay. Have I, thought, bad thoughts about them. And being a believer, I ask God, help me to see this person through your eyes, God, not through my tainted eyes of the world or what they've done to me. And so to avoid
good.
a judgmental stance.
So what I'm hearing you say is you need a new filter.
Yes.
You need,
Yeah.
I noticed in my own life, I've had a few people who've been very difficult to deal with. And what's helped me personally is praying for them.
Yeah.
Bless them. And it takes the focus off me and my frustration onto God, and He helps me see them through His eyes and get new lenses is very
Exactly.
important.
Yep.
So we're talking about speak up. We can camp out here a long time.
Yes, we
but
could.
Accept. A is accept. So S is speak, P is prepare, E is evaluate, A is accept. So accept your feelings about the matter, and yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Accept your feelings about it. Accept that this is something that needs to be done, that doesn't have to be hard, and that God's going to be with you, because I feel, He is the mender of relationships.
Yeah.
Look at what Jesus did. Mending, and we want to mend this relationship.
There's a question, I think you pointed it out in here. What is the loving thing to do?
Yeah.
If you can ask yourself in the heat of the moment, if you can ask yourself, what is the loving thing to do? Or some people would say, as Andy Stanley says sometimes, what is the wise thing to do? Mm-hmm. That'll clear up a lot of things as to what not to say and what to say.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Okay, so let's talk about K. KISS. You talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
So everybody knows KISS is...
Keep it simple and referring back to the prepare, maybe 3 points. And this is not bringing up a record of their wrongs. Love, in 1 Corinthians 13, I think it's nestled in there. It might be 7a. Love doesn't keep a record of wrongs. So this is not having a litany. You did this and you did that. I felt there's a strain between us. Those, I felt devalued, when you blah, blah. So I think that keeping it simple and going slowly, right?
Yeah, there's another thing in there about love. Love is patient. And so many times we're not patient with ourselves.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And that's a whole nother topic.
Yes,
Maybe that's another segment.
Yeah.
So the U is understand, that you're doing this for the relationship.
Right.
And it's not against the person, but you got to understand that you're doing this for healing.
For healing of the relationship,
Right.
and understand that you also have a part. You are, part of it is owning your part, right? And I understand that when I said blank, you may have felt right.
So the P in speak up is pray. So you're saying ask God for direction and perfect timing, and give the assignment to Him. One of my favorite passages of Scripture is Proverbs 16:3, and it says it different in different versions, but it says that if you'll simply commit your ways or your thoughts as unto the Lord, He will establish your thoughts, and your plans will succeed.
Right.
There is so much practical advice in the Bible about, for businessmen or everyday life.
Yeah.
And so you use a lot of that in your counseling.
Right,
And
yes.
So it's, again, having hard conversations. We want to speak up. We want to speak, prepare, evaluate, accept your feelings, KISS, keep it simple, understand that, and the U is understand, and P is pray. So,
and
thank you.
Also, Charlie,
That is so good.
I want to interject. Not all the clients that come to me are believers, and
Yeah.
They could be agnostic, atheist, anyway. And so I also put P. I didn't put this in the book as pretend, right?
Okay.
The role play. Pretend you're talking to that person. Role play with
Okay.
that person, and also that I think the P in pray is, a lot of my people, my clients, even if they say they're not believers, I always ask, would you like me to pray before the session, after the session, both or none? And even my clients who profess to be non-believers, I like a prayer.
Yeah, and most people, I find, believe in God. They haven't developed that personal
Right.
intimacy yet with Him. So,
Right.
So we're kind of closing this thing out, and so much information we could share about your book. But if you had 1 minute with entrepreneurs, family leaders, executives, innovators listening today, there's a wide array of different types of people. What message would you like to leave? If you just had 1 minute, I mean, of all that's hard to do.
Yeah.
But what would be your highlight on that to help people today? They're dealing with depression. They're dealing with anger, disappointment. Name the list. People need hope. They need. So what can you tell the people out there that are struggling today?
Okay, that there are answers.
Okay.
That there are answers. And I see, I don't see people going to counseling as weak. I've been seeing a lot of men come in, and oftentimes in the manosphere, it's like, you don't talk about it. You
Right.
just put your boots on. And I see people who come to counseling, who reach out to me for help, as courageous, as brave, as wanting a change. And so I would tell the listening audience that you're worth it. And sometimes, and you don't know what you don't know. I have people come in, they've got these issues over here, and I'll say, well, it sounds like you're really suffering from, childhood things that were not remediated, or an alcoholic spouse. And you don't know what you don't know. Just like being a business owner, if you're going into business, you need to be humble.
Yeah.
You need to be humble and ask for help.
So is it accurate to say your role as a counselor is to get people to discover things that they have on the inside, to get them to explain or communicate or feel
Right.
what's going on?
Right.
Yeah.
And as I've said more than once, I don't tell people what to do. Okay, if you're running out in front of a truck and you don't see the truck, I'm like, get out of the road, right?
Yeah.
And I will gently lead them with questioning. And I've had so many people go, oh my gosh. And I love that. They have this light bulb moment.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm seeing that I'm training my well-being for somebody else's well-being.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you're in business, you
Right.
own a business, you own a counseling center. So what's the best business advice or most important lesson you've learned while being in business? And what could you tell somebody who's out there who's wanting to start a business, or is just starting business, or maybe been doing business for a while but are struggling out there? Or maybe they're doing it good and they can always do it better, because we all live in
yeah.
the same room.
Right.
Room for improvement, right?
Well, I think I said this at the last question. Find mentors, people that you really look up to, that are doing well, that maybe have been in business for a long time, and be humble. Don't go in saying, I got this.
Okay.
Be humble and say, I'd like a little help. Could I take you to
little help.
lunch? Could I buy you some coffee? And tell them, I want to pick your brain about this. And you don't know what you don't know. And I had a lot of mentors and people speaking into me. And one important thing that somebody said to me, she had a very wildly successful psychotherapy practice. She said, when somebody asks you, Kate, what do you do? Don't go, I'm a counselor. She said, tell them I'm a licensed psychotherapist and I own a private practice.
Okay.
Doesn't that sound, because
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So if there's somebody out there who is considering, like they've heard you today and they're like, that is the most interesting person I've ever heard, and I'm just fascinated by the things that she's talking about. I think I'd like to maybe get into counseling one day, because, she could be a mentor to me. What would you tell somebody who's wanting to get into a career in counseling today?
Great question. The first thing I would say is, counselor, heal thyself.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You got to work on yourself
yes.
too?
Yes.
Oh.
Because, you don't want somebody sitting in front of you who hasn't worked on their own. Everybody's got stuff, Charlie, right?
Yeah.
And I say that we don't learn through when times are great and groovy. We learn through when times have been hard. And what have we done? What have we done? And so I would tell that person who might want to be a counselor or who's already in a counseling program, go get therapy. Sit in front of a great counselor.
Wow.
Talk about things. I did years of that before I became a counselor, to process some things from my life. And then that
So
helped
you got some
me.
restoration?
I got
You
lots
got in
of
touch with
I got
your own stuff.
lots of restoration.
Yeah.
And that would be the main thing that I would say. And also, again, find good mentors, pick their brains, read some good books. and ask God, is this what you want? What do you want me to do here?
Yeah, that's very good. Well, we are out of time.
Oh, man.
And I know we're just getting started on some of these topics, but if something resonated with you today, Kate's new book, we're going to put it up on the screen. Tell us again the name of the book and
Okay. The name of my book is A Little Help Getting Unstuck from
Life's Challenges.
Life's Challenges.
I'm
I
ready
got
to
a
come.
little.
That's okay. I put her on the spot.
And I do want people to know it's not published yet. We're looking at mid-July to late July. And so follow my social media. You'll know I'll do a big hoop-de-doo.
Yeah, we're going to put this up on the screen. But if you want to contact Kate on her new book, A Little Help, her website is katedturner.com. You can email her at kt@katedturner.com. And on Facebook, Kate Turner Counseling. She does some really good snippets on videos. She's very interesting, so you're going to love that. And on Instagram, Kate Turner Counseling. And this will be on your screen, and jot that down. And I'm sure Kate would love to hear from you. And we just want to thank you for tuning in to AM Spotlight. We love the guests that come our way, like Kate. You just have so much knowledge and so much insight into helping people. And I believe this book's going to go far because you know what? I got to feel that everybody needs a little help.
Well, thank you, Charlie, for having me. It's been a pleasure. I always love chatting with you.
Oh, yeah, this is great. So, well, thank you. And tune in to the next episode of AM Spotlight. You never know who we're going to have on. But today, enjoy all the things you learned from Kate Turner at Kate Turner Counseling. Thank you.